Hit it, Phil.
Can it be the breeze that fills the trees with rare and magic perfume? Oh, no, it isn't the breeze. It's Jackson time. La, da, da, da.
Hello again. This is Buck Benny speaking. I was just enjoying Kathy's newest book about old-time radio shows in my clean den. I had to show off my clean den. But I'm Buck Benny, of course. This is Jack's very first radio show that we're bringing you today. I decided it was about time for me to do some new intros on these. So I'm going to bury the old intros at the end. Folks that are fans of my intros can listen to the end of this, but this is the new one. I just got this Jack Benny Seahawk jersey from my kids. It says 39, of course, the Jack Benny. And then if we look on the back, if I can get over here where you can see, I hope you can see that. Anyway, 39, Jack Benny. Never gets better than that. Just, it's show and tell day, I guess. This is my radio. It's a Lear radio from the approximate time of when Orson Welles was giving away these radios in 1946 as part of his commentaries. And one of my listeners, Michael, we haven't decided if we're going to give Michael a nickname yet or not. We've been trying to choose it, but anyway. So Michael gave me this wonderful radio, sent it to me. Even let me choose a color. There was a darker one, a lighter one. I said, oh, maybe the lighter one. And it's beautiful, and I love it, and it's so cool to have it. It actually works and plays radio shows if I want it to. He also put a Bluetooth feature in it so that I could listen to regular radio shows, or radio, I guess, or I can listen to the actual old radio shows that I send across via Bluetooth. So it's pretty cool to have that. And I was just noticing how bad my speakers are in here. So I thought, maybe I'll use this as my regular speaker. It's amazing how these old speakers have such good sound and everything. So I want to thank Michael for that. It is awesome. But let's get into what we're covering today. So I'm going to scoot on up closer. Well, there we are. So anyway, for today, we have Jack's very first radio program. It's from 1932. It exists. I was trying to figure out, should I try and tweak the sound and make it a little better and things, but it's listenable completely, so I thought I'd just leave it alone. But before we present that, we're going to have an interview with Chuck Shaden done in 1970, where they cover Jack's whole career in about a 20-minute piece, and I think you'll enjoy that. Then it'll go right into, like I say, the original first surviving and the first Jack Benny show ever for radio. And then after that, if you want to listen past that, you can hear a little bit of one of my old intros. So anyway, without further ado, here is Chuck Shaden talking to Jack Benny, followed by the original radio show with just Jack Benny on it. I mean, it's got other folks, but you won't recognize all the other folks that are on there probably, and that's okay. And we'll talk some more, and we'll see you hopefully next week for going further into Jack Benny's radio shows.
Do you remember what your first words were?
On radio?
On the Ed Sullivan Show?
Was it Ed Sullivan or my own show? First show where I said something like, because it's been repeated so much, something like, this is Jack Benny, there'll be a slight pause while you say who
for everyone to say who cares?
Who cares, or or who cares, or something, I don't know. It was something like that, yeah.
Well, you were on the Ed Sullivan Show back in 32.
Right.
And then that was in March, and then later that year, in May, you started your own program.
In May, I started my own program. And I got it through the Ed Sullivan Show.
The sponsor?
The Canada Dry Ginger Ale. They heard me on the Ed Sullivan Show, and as soon as that show was over, they called me and made me an offer.
And you've had a sponsor on radio and TV ever since?
Ever since.
Right. What did you do on that Ed Sullivan Show?
What happened was, I was in New York, and Ed said, Jack, why don't you come on my show? He did a sports show or something. Mm-hmm. I said, what'll we do? He said, what'll we do? He said, let you and I sit down, we'll write something. So I forget what it was, a couple of questions. He was doing a sports thing. So we sat down, and there wasn't much to the show except little talk, but evidently the agency for Canada Dry Ginger Ale perhaps liked my speaking voice, because that's all he could go by.
Right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As George has already told you, Jack Benny will be honored on his 10th anniversary in radio at the gala banquet this coming Friday night, May 9th, at the Biltmore Bowl of the Biltmore Hotel here in Los Angeles.
Gee, I'm nervous already.
Since Jack is one of the very few radio stars who can point to such a record of achievement, it is only fitting that he should appear on today's broadcast of Behind the Mic. Both Jack and I have just left rehearsal for today's Jell-O program, and while the cast continues across the hall, we've come over here to this little studio to take part in Behind the Mic for a few moments so that Jack can answer some questions about his career in radio, and I'll try to put myself in the role of a typical Jack Benny fan. First, Jack, here's a question that especially fits the occasion. Supposing we go back 10 years and have you tell us about your very first appearance on radio. What was it like, and was it a sponsored show or on the cuff like this one?
Well, Don, I went on the radio for the first time early in 1932 when Ed Sullivan, the Broadway columnist, invited me to make a guest appearance on his program in New York.
Do you remember what you said?
No. Oh, yes. I'll never forget it. Look what it got me into.
Well, let's hear about it.
All right, I'll give it to you. Now, just to illustrate how times change, particularly in radio, it was a little monologue affair where I walked to the microphone and said, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jack Benny talking. There will be a slight pause while you say, who cares? Now, that was funny then, Don. It may not sound funny now, but they screamed at it then. Anyway, I went on. I said, I am here tonight as a scenario writer. There's quite a lot of money in writing scenarios for pictures. Well, there would be if I could sell one. Even that. They even laughed at that then. Anyway, I'm going back to pictures in about 10 weeks. I'm going to be in a new film with Greta Garbo. They sent me the story last week, and it's a very novel idea. When the picture opens, I'm found dead in the bathroom. I hear? Now, they screamed at that, Don. Imagine 10 years ago. Anyway, I was found dead in the bathroom. I say it's a sort of a mystery show. I'm found in a bathtub on a Wednesday night. I should have been in Miss Garbo's last picture, but they gave the part to Robert Montgomery. You know, politics. The funny part of it is I'm really younger than Montgomery. That is, I'm younger than Montgomery and Ward. You'd really like Garbo. She and I were great friends in Hollywood. She used to let me drive her car around town. Of course, she paid me for it. Well, that was it, Don. That's what I said when I first went on the air. That was my first crack at radio.
Well, Jack, if you don't mind my saying so, it sounds a bit like a vaudeville routine.
That's true, Don. Don't forget that radio was unknown to me then, and I didn't know whether it was good material or not. I could judge only by stage standards, particularly vaudeville, where I had gained most of my experience.
What was the reaction to your first broadcast, Jack?
Nobody liked it but me. However, on the strength of it, I landed my first radio commercial just 2 weeks later.
Well, I don't blame you for saving the script as a souvenir. But tell me, Jack, when did Mary Livingston start her heckling career on the air with you?
Oh, she's been in my hair since June of 1932. But she did all right by herself before that in vaudeville.
When was that?
Well, about 12 years ago in New York. And it all happened because the girl who ordinarily worked with me became ill just before the show one night. Mary volunteered to substitute, and she's been working at it ever since.
I think that our listeners would like to hear something about the other members of the cast, Jack. Take Rochester, for instance. How long has he been with you?
Well, Rochester started with the program back in 1937 when he won an audition over 50 other contenders for the role of a Pullman porter. Just a bit part that we had written in for one broadcast only.
But it didn't work out that way.
That's right. He was so good that we kept him on for another week, then another, until he finally became a regular member of the cast.
Well, Jack, I'm often asked about the preparation of your program. How long does it take on the average?
Well, we never stop working. The schedule is something like this. After a Sunday night broadcast, I get together with Bill Morrow and Ed Baloin, my writers, and we hand over different ideas for next week. Then we meet early Monday morning and start working. That goes on throughout the week until our first rehearsal, generally held either Friday or Saturday, then rewriting Saturday night and Sunday morning for the actual broadcast.
You know, Jack, when Mort Lewis asked me to interview you today, he made a specific request that I inquire about your fan mail. He'd like to know about some of the odd and unusual letters that you receive each week.
Well, they are odd and unusual. Honest, Don, you should have my tinfoil troubles.
Tinfoil troubles? Now, what does that mean?
Well, you remember the program early this season when I talked about my collection of tinfoil?
Yes?
Well, ever since that time, Don, I've received letters by the hundreds containing bits of tinfoil to be added to my collection. Believe me, I must have gotten at least 30 pounds of it. And that doesn't count the letters asking me to give the tinfoil to various charities.
Well, Jack, no interview with you would be complete without a few words about your classic feud with Fred Allen. Now, did Allen make the first crack at you or vice versa?
Well, naturally, Don, he started it. I wouldn't say anything nasty. Well, here's what happened, Don. A few years ago, when Allen had amateurs on his program, a little 9-year-old kid named Stuart Kennan played the B on his violin. And when he got through, Allen made a crack that Jack Benny couldn't do that. He ought to be ashamed of himself. Naturally, I was wounded. So I let my nails grow and clawed back. And as many times I've given him a good scratching, I have yet to strike blood. Anyway, Don, that's how it started.
That has been going on ever since.
Yes, sir.
Well, Jack, we're just about through now, and as it's your anniversary, of course, you get the last word.
All right, Don. I just want to thank Mort Lewis for the invitation to appear on today's broadcast for Behind the Mic.
That goes for me, too, Jack. We now take you back to New York.
And they made me the offer right away.
And that was for...
Canada Dry Ginger Ale.
No, I mean for what length of time? Was it a 13-week series at that point? Or
That was 39 weeks, I think, with Canada Dry Ginger Ale. I think it was. Or I don't know how many weeks it was. But what they didn't want... See, I insisted on doing comedy commercials. Otherwise, I didn't want to do radio, television, nothing. So they were afraid of the comedy commercials. We had some very funny ones. And finally, they wanted me eventually to do, even though they had a lot of marvelous letters telling them how good the commercials were, because they'd never heard commercials funny like that. They still didn't like the idea. So then they wanted me to do straight commercials, and I said, I don't want it. And they even wanted me to do it, you know. It was something like that. And so then I could see we were going to have a little problem. So I said to my manager, let's look for something else, because I don't think they're going to keep me if I stop doing comedy commercials.
You had insisted on the comedy commercial right from the beginning.
Right from the very first show.
When you had the sportsmen on the was it the Lucky Strike program where they came in?
That was Jell-O, Lucky Strike,
Right,
everything.
right.
Yeah.
Well, you wrote most of those, didn't you, or have a
With
big
my
part
writers,
of it?
with my writers, yeah, sure. We wrote every one of them. And when we started for Jell-O, the Lucky Strike, the Jell-O commercials saved Jell-O, because Jell-O was going out of business almost on account of Knox Gelatin was beating Jell-O, beating the hell out of them. And so they wanted the comedy commercials, figuring that could be the one thing that would save it. And by golly, it did.
It did it. How long were you on for Jell-O?
Oh, for a long time. General Flu, Jell-O, and then when they had enough of that, we went on. We stayed with them for Grape Nuts Flakes and Grape Nuts and all this and that. And then, I don't know what happened with that. We were on for years and years and years. And then I went with Lucky Strike. I think Lucky Strike made me a bigger, better deal, whatever it was. So I went with Lucky Strike. And what happened was, the last year that I was with General Foods, so I had a few shows that weren't as hot. But I still had a lot of great shows.
This was in the middle 40s?
It was, something.
The so-called famous Jack Benny slump, that you moved from number 1 to number 7.
Or something like that,
right?
or something. I don't know. Or they thought, so they practically said to me, watch it a little bit, because some of the shows, as though every show had to be perfect, you know. See, I spoiled them. So the minute they said that, I went to my and then they went back to New York. Now, they didn't have an option. The thing was over, but they did want to give me a new contract. But the way they said to me, just watch a little bit, I got mad. So I said to my manager, I said, let's get another sponsor. I don't want to be with them. And we wired them on the train as they were going back that we will not be with them anymore, because right away I had like 4 or 5 big offers from Lucky Strike, from everybody, and we grabbed Lucky Strike immediately.
When was that?
That was, God, I don't know the years, exactly the years. Then, of course, Jello came back and said, we didn't mean to hurt your feel, all this and that, but it was too late. So then I stayed with Lucky Strikes for years. And what did I do after Lucky Strike?
Well, I think you went off the air with Lucky Strike. Your last radio show was in
Well,
about
I went in
55.
television with Lucky Strike.
Right.
Television with Lucky Strike. And then we had a few different sponsors for television. And
Weren't you on for an insurance?
yeah,
Insurance group, or-
for quite a while. Yeah,
Yeah.
for State Farm Insurance.
State Farm, yeah. Is it true, Mr. Benny, that NBC once gave you an option on the 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock time slot on Sunday
they
nights?
told me as long as I would stay with them, I could have that time. Now, this was not in writing, but it was a definite agreement that I could have that time as long as I wanted to stay with them. But when I moved to CBS gave me exactly that same time, opposite.
You know, I've always asked this question of old radio fans. What was on opposite Jack Benny? And nobody ever remembers.
No, because in those days they couldn't. Who could imagine? In those days, nobody would go opposite. Huh? That's what I thought.
You see if we can find a match for Mr. Benny.
But
there is no match for Mr. Benny.
So,
Here he is.
So I moved, and I didn't want to leave NBC. I loved NBC, but I had to make some kind of a deal where I could make some money, because here I was getting a terrific salary, and was all salary. And I couldn't make a deal for a company. Well, I wouldn't care if I got $1 million a week. That wouldn't do me any good. What good would that be? With income
Be all
tax,
taxed,
well,
right?
sure.
Right.
So the ones that made me the deal and came right through with it quick was CBS. Then, of course, when NBC realized I was going to go, then they were willing to make the deal. But I didn't want to play one against the other, so I merely took CBS.
Well, CBS had generally rated NBC at that time, didn't they, with these
No,
production company deals?
NBC was, once I got on, but NBC was really the first network. Then when I moved over, a lot of shows moved over.
Mm-hmm.
So that made really CBS come up on top.
Yeah.
I made the millions CBS by that move, which I didn't know or didn't think,
How did you get hooked up with Rochester?
Nothing. We just auditioned a couple of black men, a couple of Negroes to play the part of a porter on a train. And I like Rochester
And so you hired
the
him?
best.
Your
I
valet.
hired him. I hired him only for one show,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a big hit. Then I hired him for another show later, and nobody even thought of taking him because I hadn't signed up yet. And I thought I'd keep him steady.
He was certainly a big hit. What is
sure.
he is occasionally on some of your TV.
He will be on my
programs.
next special,
Which is when?
which is you'll see it November 16th, something like that.
And now Mary Livingston, your wife, is it true that she really was a clerk in the May Company?
She sold hosiery in the May Company, but she's going to be on my next special. And it's very tough to get her in a show, but by God, she's going to be in it.
Well, that's great. She stopped appearing with you even in the days of radio, didn't she? At the end of the line?
She even went into television with me live, and then she got very nervous and she didn't want to work anymore. And she told me she didn't want to work, so I let her go.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about the Jack Benny legend. Do you remember when you fired the Sportsman and you hired Bing Crosby and Dick Hames and Andy Russell and Dennis to substitute?
As a gag, you mean?
Right, as a gag.
Yeah.
There was a lot of reaction to that program.
Yeah.
And wasn't it a rare occasion for, I think, Mr. Crosby let loose with his offstage comment on that show? Do you remember?
Oh,
that?
yeah. What hell was that?
Exactly that.
Huh? Is that it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Something that you couldn't say that. You could say it now.
Right.
But you couldn't say it then. He said, who the hell picked this key?
Right. Yeah, then he said Dennis Day or something like that.
Yeah.
Did you really live next door to Ronald Coleman?
I lived a block away. We made it next door,
right.
But I lived a block away.
Were you good friends with him?
Yeah, very.
How about the episode when? The reason I know about these things, we listen to your old programs all the time. Like Traders and the Collectors have them. And you remember the time you lost Ronald Coleman's Oscar? You remember that story?
Yeah. I don't remember the routine now, but I remember the incident.
Was that tied in somewhat with that episode of when you were robbed, a great famous Jack Benny episode where the fella came up and said, "Your money or your life," and the long pause and all that?
Well, that was a different one. That was a different show.
That was it. When was that? You recall when the?
I don't remember any of the dates. I don't remember the years, dates. All I remember is the first time I started. I remember my first television show, the date of that, and that was all. I only remember the first dates.
When was that?
Well, it was in October or November. I said I remember the exact date. I said October, November, 1950. That's why this is my 20th anniversary.
And this is also your 38th, the 38th anniversary of your first radio appearance, 1970 to 1932. That's when you first started. At that time, back in 1932, you were on Broadway in Earl Carroll's Vanities.
Yeah.
At the time, and we've got some.
But I was in the Vanities before I went into radio.
Right. And you were on the vaudeville circuit. Before that.
Yeah.
And that's how you met Mary. You were in L.A.
Yeah, I was playing at the Orpheum Theater in Los Angeles, and Mary was working cross street at the May Company.
When was your first film? You recall that? I have a note.
Around that.
Said Hollywood Review of 29 or something
1929.
like that?
Hollywood Review of 1929.
And,
we did that in 1928. That's when they used all the stars of MGM.
Yeah, that's right. It was MGM. Yeah. One of the greatest things about Jack Benny and radio that I remember was the Walking Man contest.
Yeah.
On Truth or Consequence.
That was the start of the heart. That started the Heart Fund.
Right. And
right.
And why were you the Walking Man?
Well, why?
Yeah.
You just asked me to do it. What's his name? Ralph Edwards. I don't know why.
No, I'm trying to get you to say it because you were too cheap to ride, isn't that?
Is that what you're trying to say?
That's the old story. And what about the famous Benny Allen feud? Was there really, in fact, a feud?
Well, only a friendly feud, of course. We didn't plan it, though. It came up by accident. Fred said something one night on his show, and I picked it up the next week. Then he picked it up, then I picked it up. And we were in the feud for about 8 months before we even did anything about it. The feud went on until he passed away.
Yeah. Well, that was really a great thing.
Sure it was.
You crossed over every week almost, didn't you?
Sure. And then we would go on each other's shows. He was probably the best comedian, the best one to ever have a feud with, because he was the funniest. He was a great writer, that's why. Great wit.
I remember that you used to, at the end of your program, Don Wilson used to say, "Jack will be back in just a moment, folks, but first," and then he'd go into a commercial, and invariably you were out of time. And he'd say, and now here's Jack, and you'd end up with, we're a little late.
Yeah, a little late, folks.
It was great.
Yeah.
Jack Benny is appearing at the Mill Run Theater through Monday, Labor Day, and we're grateful for this opportunity to speak with this idol of ours for many, many years. And he looks really good for a fellow 39 years old.
Yeah, I don't look 39. Either way you want to go.
Thank you, Mr. B.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Tonight, Canada Dry, the campaign of ginger ales, presents a series of programs to advertise the new made-to-order Canada Dry, which you can now buy by the glass at drugstores and soda fountains. This series will feature George Olson and his music, Miss Ethel Chute, the star of many Broadway successes, and that suave comedian, dry humorist, and famous master of ceremonies, Jack Benny.
Thank you, Mr. Thorgerson. That's pretty good from a man who doesn't even know me. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jack Benny talking and making my first appearance on the air professionally. By that I mean I'm finally getting paid, which of course will be a great relief to my creditors. I really don't know why I'm here. I'm supposed to be a sort of a master of ceremonies and tell you all the things that will happen, which would happen anyway. I must introduce the different artists who could easily introduce themselves, and also talk about the Canada Dry made to order by the glass, which is a waste of time, as you know all about it. You drink it, like it, and don't want to hear about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, a master of ceremonies is really a fellow who is unemployed and gets paid for it. I think you will like the entertainment arranged for tonight, I hope. Of course, I haven't seen any of the program myself, but I've spoken to the artists individually. They seem to think it's awfully good. The first number will be a selection by George Olson and his orchestra. I think this being our first program together, it is no more than fair that I have you meet Mr. Olson personally. He's really a very charming fellow and one of the few directors who comes to and from his work on roller skates. That's perhaps the silliest thing that I'll say all night, I think. I might add that Mr. Olson is very, very handsome. I told you, George, I'd get that in. But as long as we are both on the air, of course, I won't have to worry about that. Oh, George, come here. I want you to say hello to the folks.
Hello, everybody.
That was George Olson, ladies and gentlemen. He rehearsed that speech all week. You know, this is really all play with George. He doesn't have to work at all. I might say that Mr. Olson is one of the wealthiest conductors in America. You know what I mean. He owns his own car. Of course, the other boys are in debt, too. George, what kind of a car have you?
A Saxon.
A what?
A Saxon.
A Saxon, huh? Well, that was my fault for bringing it up, that's all. Is it a new one, is it?
Oh, yes, a very late model.
I see. Well, you must have been in this country a long time now, haven't you, George?
Yeah, say, by the way, Jack, what kind of a car have you?
Me? I have a bicycle built for two. I mean, now, you can't go back any further than that, I think. Well, George, I think we ought to get started. What's the first number?
I beg your pardon, mademoiselle. It's a French number, Jack. Do you like French numbers?
Do I? Mon duck, mon duck.
Your pardon, mademoiselle, step in the garden, mademoiselle. I'd like to tell you, mademoiselle, you're wonderful, you're marvelous, in other words, you're swell, it's lovely weather, mademoiselle. Let's get together, mademoiselle, you know I love you, but if you don't parley-boo, I beg your pardon, mademoiselle.
And I don't know, you look so important directing that orchestra, you know, with the baton in your hand. I don't know, there's something about all you fellas when you stand there waving that stick in the air. It's thrilling, you know. One thing I'd like to know, George, if the band didn't show up, what would you do with that stick?
Why, I'd throw it away and do what you're doing.
Always kidding. And now, ladies and gentlemen, may I present a young lady who is a star of many New York productions, Miss Ethel Chate. You will remember Miss Chate best in Whoopi playing opposite Eddie Cantor. Is it all right for me to mention Cantor's name here? Everybody else does. Ethel, come over and say hello.
Oh, hello.
Wasn't that clever? Oh, she does a lot of things like that. You'd be surprised. And Miss Chate is going to sing for her. She has a beautiful voice, too. She has a sort of a nervous soprano. You know what I mean? In fact, last week she had her nose lifted so she could be heard in Philadelphia. And, oh, by the way, here's a little news for you, might interest you. Miss Chate is really Mrs. George Olsen, although I wouldn't go as far as to say that that's the reason she happens to be on this program. Nevertheless, she's Mrs. George Olsen. Such a nice girl, too. I'm surprised that she's married to Olsen. And now, Miss Chate will sing, I Found $1 Million Baby. I still feel a little Frenchy tonight, Ethel, so it's Mon Dux to you, too.
A popular song anytime or anywhere at all.
Rain or sunshine, spring or fall.
You never know when it's going to say hello in a very unexpected place.
For example, take this case.
It was a lucky April shower. It was the most convenient door.
He found $1 million baby in a 5 and 10 cent store.
The rain continued for an hour. I hung around for 3 or 4.
Hung around $1 million baby in a 5 and 10 cent store.
She was selling china when she made those eyes.
He kept buying china until my thirst got wide.
And incidentally, if you should run into a shower,
you step aside a cottage door and meet $1 million baby from the 5 and 10 cent store. He met $1 million baby in a 5 and 10 cent store. I love my $1 million baby from the 5 and 10 cent store.
She was selling china
on Wednesday night. Two china, 2 pots, with the water side, to the boat and teacups. And then the crowd got wild. And incidentally, if you would spend a happy hour, just step inside a cottage door and meet our $1 million baby.
Maybe 1,
maybe 2,
maybe 3,
maybe 4, and they're not from the 10 cent store.
What a charming couple. And, folks, I forgot to mention that Miss Chate was assisted by Fran Fry. Of course, I'm lucky that I remember anything tonight. But you know, folks, all the time Miss Chute was singing, I kept thinking of my girl. You know, I get so sentimental. I really have a girl. She lives in Newark, New Jersey. You know, the girl I go with when I'm in Newark. She's not what you call good-looking exactly. In fact, she's quite homely, but then she can't stay in the house all the time. I imagine you folks have seen her pictures in different magazines. You know, she poses for the beauty ads entitled Before Taking. And she comes from a very fine family, although her father very often partakes of the forbidden beverage. It's all right for me to mention that, as they have no radio. In fact, her father drank everything in the United States and then went up north to drink Canada Dry. Boy, I'm glad I thought of that joke. You know, the one about Canada Dry? I'm really supposed to mention it occasionally. After all, I owe it to my sponsors, and they might be listening in. Seriously, though, do you realize, folks, that if you want a drink of Canada Dry, well, say just a glass, you don't have to buy it in the bottle. You can walk into any drugstore or soda fountain that has that big sign, Canada Dry, made to order, ask for a glass and get it. I know you always have it in your home in bottles, but isn't it nice to know that you don't have to wait until you get home to drink it? Gee, I thought I did that pretty well for a new salesman, eh? I suppose nobody will drink it now. And now, folks, a very stirring number called I Love a Parade with a vocal refrain by the Messrs. Fran Fry, Bobby Borger, and Bob Wright.
Stamping of feet, I love every beat I hear of a drum. I love a parade. When I hear a band, I just want to stand and here they come. The sight of a drill will give me a thrill. I thrill at the skill of anything military. I love a parade. A handful of vets, a line of cadets, or any brigade. For I love a parade. I love to see the boys in blue and hear their heavy tread. I used to love that Navy band with Sousa at its head. I love a stirring war parade, but best of all I feel the biggest thrill when college boys come marching down the field.
That was I Love a Parade, ladies and gentlemen. The kind of a number that grips and thrills you, gives you that great feeling of patriotism, and makes you glad that you're an American. Personally, it didn't bother me very much because I took a nap while the boys were playing it. Now, folks, in case you've forgotten, this is Jack Benny again. You know, the Canada Dry humorist. Say, I thought that was good. The Canada Dry humorist. I made that up myself, huh?
It sounds like it.
That witty retort was by George Olson, ladies and gentlemen, proving again that he is still an orchestra leader. At that, George has a great sense of humor. Say, he told me a story the other day. Do you mind if I tell it, George? I'll give you credit for it, you know. It's really supposed to be true, too. It's about George's uncle, who had been ill for a long time. He had what you call labor poisoning. You know what I mean? He just couldn't stand working. So his doctor finally told him that he would have to get a lot of fresh air, do outside work, but not lift anything heavy. He told him that at no time was he to lift anything heavy. So his uncle got a job as a garbage man in Scotland. Funny, I never heard that one before, but the thing that kills me is Olson telling a Scotch story. I mean, because George, is no spendthrift himself. In fact, he invited me to dinner the other night, much to his own surprise, and he paid the check with a $5 bill that was in his pocket so long that Lincoln's eyes were bloodshot. That's a fact. However, he will now favor us with that very popular song hit called Paradise. After all, why should his orchestra be an exception?
This is George Olson speaking. By this time, I know you're thoroughly bored listening to our master of ceremonies and his alleged Canada Dry humor and telling you all about made to order Canada Dry. We also have a product to sell. It's music. And may we show you now just how we make music.
Listen, everyone, we're going to tell you how we all make music.
Now, first there's Wally. He sure plays some with two little sticks he beats on his drum. And that's how we make music. Now we have the boys with their violins. Their bows go back and forth when they beat in. And the drums. Now the trumpets play loud and shrill, but when they get going, they'll give you a thrill. And the violin and the drum. The old trombone slides up and down. When he gets hot, he goes to town. And the trumpet, and the violin, and the drum. When we want to shiver, a quiver, or a groan, we call upon the boys with the saxophone. And the trombone, and the trumpet, and the violin, and the drum. Please, please, now, when we want some rhythm, where do we go? Why, it's old Bob Rice with his old banjo. And the saxophone, and the trombone, the trumpet, the violin, and the drum. Oh, the cow is now a little birdie. All right. Now, the next old fella can't be beat. You know him well. It's Piccolo Pete. And the banjo, and the saxophone, the trombone, the trumpet, the violin, and the drum. Okay, Ben Burney, if you like it. That's it. Now we have the piano for cadences and such. All he needs is a very light touch. And the piccolo, and the banjo, and the saxophone, and the trombone, and the trumpet, and the violin, and the drum. So are you, so are you. Now the old bass fiddle plays way down low. He has to get a derrick to move his bow. And the piano, and the piccolo, and the banjo, and the saxophone, and the trombone, the trumpet, the violin, and the drum. Hey, please. Bass, piano, piccolo, banjo, saxophone, trombone, trumpet, violin. Now that's how we make music.
That was cute, George. I mean, babies will like it anyway, I think. And, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the way these boys make music. Now, if they could only play it. Mr. Olson will now play Come West, Little Girl, Come West. And I'm supposed to sing a chorus of this number. And do you know, folks, that 6 months ago, I couldn't sing a note. Really, I could not sing a note. But after taking 3 glasses every day of Canada Dry made-to-order ginger ale, I still am unable to sing and can't even sign a note. So the moral of this is drink that champagne of ginger ale, Canada Dry, and don't worry about signing notes. So for want of a better soloist, Miss Chute will sing, Come West, Little Girl, Come West. I'm going east.
I love to hear a cowboy sing like a cowboy sings when he's blue. Round the campfire on the range when his daily work is through. If I could hear a certain love song, what memories it would bring. I can't forget that love song the cowboys used to sing. The sun will set, the moon will rise, but I want to look in my baby's eyes. Come west, little girl, come west. The breeze will blow, the stars will beam, but I'm too lonesome to go to sleep. Come west, little girl, come west. So don't be pining away, way down east. You know my love here for you will increase. I love the West, it's full of charm, but I rest best in my baby's arms. Come west, little girl, come west. The sun will set, the moon will rise, but I'm gonna look in my baby's eyes. Come west, little girl, come west. The breeze will blow, the stars will beam, but I'm too lonesome to go to sleep. Come west, little girl, come west. So don't be pining away, way down east. You know my love here for you will increase. I love the West, it's full of charm, but I rest best in my baby's arms. Come west, little girl.
Hello, everybody. This is Kate Smith, or Jack Benny talking. You see how nervous I am? I mean, not so much because I'm broadcasting, but I think all my relatives are listening in, and I don't want them to know that I'm working. Although I have an older brother that I'm quite fond of. I mean, we get along great. We sort of share everything together. I mean, what's mine is his, and what's his is his, you know. Although this has absolutely nothing to do with Canada Dry made to order. I keep getting entirely off the subject. But don't forget, folks, that you can walk into your neighborhood drugstore, or any drugstore. I mean, after all, I don't care what drugstore you walk into. I'm just the master of ceremonies here, that's all. I mean, if I'm going to have to worry about things like that, I'll have my hands full. But go into any drugstore and order a glass, mind you. Not a bottle, but a glass of made-to-order Canada Dry ginger ale and stagger out. Isn't it funny, the things you can buy today in a drugstore? I went in for an aspirin the other day and came out with a new hat. I imagine the next number will be by George Olson. He's about to make his first appearance on this program. In fact, I'm lucky to get in here at all. This is called Drums in My Heart. And boys, try and finish this all together if you can. Will you, please? That, ladies and gentlemen, was the last number on our first program on the 2nd of May. Are you sleeping? I hope you'll be with us again Wednesday. In fact, I hope I'll be here Wednesday. George, we all hope that we'll be here Wednesday. Well, good night then.
All aboard, away we go. Get that little lady on the train, boys. All aboard. Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are concluding the first program in a new series sponsored by Canada Dry. The ginger ale now available made to order at drugstores and soda fountains, as well as in bottles. Canada Dry has presented Jack Benny, Ethel Chupe, and George Olson and his music. The same group of artists will be with you at this time Wednesday evening. Drums in My Heart from Through the Years was played tonight with the special permission of the copyright owners. This is the National Broadcasting Company. WJZ, New York.
Well, jello, Canadians. Are you dry? I was trying to figure out what kind of an intro I could do, because Jello doesn't it exists, but it's not being sponsored by Jack at this point. Welcome to the very first episode ever of the Jack Benny Show, sponsored by Canada Dry, which is still around, which is pretty cool. This is from 80 years ago today, and pretty exciting that we could bring it to you on the actual day of the 80th birthday of the Jack Benny Show. This is going to be really different for you folks, just to warn you ahead of time. If you haven't listened to this episode, it's quite different from the Jack Benny episodes we're used to. This is very much Jack being the MC and just saying little jokes and then introducing the acts that are on the show. So it's much more of a kind of variety show with Jack just presenting the performances. He does do his first comical bit about the sponsor. A lot of the jokes, unfortunately, don't hold up as well as his later jokes and things do for modern audiences. So this show's a little harder to take or get into for a lot of folks. But I think its historical significance makes up for all of that. And we were just so lucky that Jack kept on making shows and bringing them to us and kept on ever improving his show until it became the most amazing show in radio history and perhaps in entertainment history altogether. The other thing I thought I'd mention about today's show is that this is when Jack's show was on 2 times a week. And so, because I wondered before, there's like a whole bunch of missing episodes. And I was like, how could he have that many missing episodes in such a short amount of time? Well, it was because the show was on twice a week, so of course they stack up pretty fast. We basically have this episode, and then we're missing all of the episodes until the very beginning of next year. So in January of next year, we will bring you the next episode, the next available episode of this season of the Jack Benny Show from 80 years ago. And I will start bringing you those shows as well as the shows I'm bringing you. So we're going to have Jack sometimes, very infrequently, but sometimes 5 days a week, or at least 5 shows a week. I haven't decided what day I'm going to put his shows from 80 years ago on. And just a warning when you're listening to, of course, the 80-year-ago shows, the sound quality on some of them is just horrendously bad. There's some wonderful folks that have spent some time, and we'll go into this later, trying to fix some of the glaring problems with those episodes. So we're going to have the best sounding that those episodes have ever sounded before, but they're still not going to be great for a lot of them anyway. So enjoy tonight's episode, the very first appearance of Jack Benny from 80 years ago on the radio. And, well, it's not first appearance on his own show. And we shall see you tomorrow and Thursday and Saturday and every Sunday for more Jack Benny from all different times in history. But I'm excited that we were able to bring you the very first Jack Benny Show. So we will see you folks next time.